Kidney cancer is one of the 10 most common cancers in the United States, accounting for about 4 to 5% of all cancer. It's even more common in men, people over the age of 65, and people of Black, Alaskan, or Native American heritage, which is what makes today's guest story pretty rare.
When I was thinking about my tumor, I kind of almost had a flashback of, did I have a kidney infection in college? Did something like that trigger the tumor, or is it environmental exposures? I definitely think doing cancer research has kind of triggered me to think more outside the box for what could have caused my tumor.
That's Susan May, research scientist, wife, mom, and kidney cancer survivor. I'm Sarah Jane Castro, Senior Director of Marketing and Communications for the National Kidney Foundation of Illinois, and your host for this edition of The Journey Continues. Susan, thank you so much for coming on The Journey Continues to share your story with us. Can you tell us a little bit about the type of research you work on?
So I work on skin cancer. We mainly focus on the papillomavirus, the type that makes kind of like warts on your skin. They can sometimes develop into skin cancer. And right now we use dogs and cats as a model. And so that's what we're working on now.
Has your work as a biologist, and especially working with cancer, prepared you at all for when you were dealing with your own health issues?
No. So when I got diagnosed, I was actually working on a vaccine for the Zika virus. So I wasn't working on cancer at all at that point. So it's been interesting, learning more about it now that I've had it.
When did you notice that something was off with your body? Did you have symptoms, or was it a routine scan that kind of brought things to light?
It was 2018, and then I was just having pain in my back, the left side of my back. It was just, it wasn't going away. So I was like, well, let me just see if maybe I have a kidney stone or something. And so I just went to my general practitioner, and he was like, well, let's just get you a ultrasound. We can check it out and see if you have a kidney stone. And so when I went in there, they actually found the tumor on the opposite side, on the right side. So there was no symptoms for the tumor. It was just that little kidney stone in there that was, I guess, giving me a little bit of problems.
So had you known anything about your kidneys or thought about your kidneys much before that diagnosis?
No, I know. I was trying to think back, and I almost feel like maybe when I was in college, I might have had a kidney infection, but I'm not completely sure. But I never really thought about it, especially on the, because the side that the tumor wasn't, there was no symptoms at all. So it was like a shock.
So your pain was on the opposite side of the kidney that actually had the tumor?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. How interesting. Did you have any family history of kidney issues or cancer before that?
No family history at all with kidney tumors or anything. My mother had kidney stones, which is one reason why I was like, well, maybe I have a kidney stone. But yeah, it doesn't run in the family at all, because a lot of times the kidney cancer is something that runs in the family.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely more common if you've got a family history. What did your doctors tell you when you were diagnosed?
Yeah, so it was crazy because when I went in to get the ultrasound, I could tell the technician was she was just acting a little off. And she was just like, when's the next time you're going to see your doctor? And I was like, well, I don't know. I don't really have a plan. And she was like, okay. And she was just like, can I keep you for a minute? I need to go make a phone call. And I was starting to be getting a little worried at that point. So basically they wouldn't let me leave. Once I had the ultrasound, which I've had ultrasounds in the past, and normally you just have your ultrasound and you don't hear any results, you just leave. But this appointment, she made me stay. And then I ended up getting a phone call from my general practitioner, and he was like, we want to do a CT scan now. And at that point, they didn't tell me what was wrong. So I had no idea what was happening. I didn't know what part of my body. So then I did the CT scan. And then that's when they told me about the kidney cancer. So it all happened within a day. So it was great because also I got to meet the urologist that day as well. And she was amazing. So I was very fortunate because I didn't have that waiting game. Literally it all, I got the diagnosis and met with my urologist and had the appointment scheduled for the surgery all in one day, which was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, that waiting part is sometimes the most anxiety producing when your mind's just racing and
Yeah,
thinking of all the possibilities.
exactly.
How did that feel to learn as a young, healthy woman that you suddenly had a tumor in your kidney?
So I had a really, really good friend that was going through pancreatic cancer at the time. So honestly, like finding out that I had kidney cancer, I almost felt like, okay, no problem. I got this. We're just going to take care of it and it's over. So it almost kind of like, I don't know, I just felt like I'm just going to get rid of it. It's okay. No problem. I think if I hadn't had her going through her cancer journey, I might have been a little bit more scared. But at that point, I almost felt fortunate that it was something that I could have surgically removed.
And that is so important to have somebody who's kind of walked in those steps before you that you can look to. So I'm glad you had that comfort.
Yeah, exactly.
When I was researching for our interview, I saw there are many different types of kidney cancer. Was your team able to pinpoint what kind you had?
They didn't say exactly like what kind it was. They only gave me like a grade in the actual tumor itself. Like, it was stage 1, it was B because it was a very large tumor. It was like 5 centimeters, like the size of kind of like a cutie.
Okay, wow, that's huge.
Yeah. So it was really big. I think that's why like the ultrasound technician was, she obviously saw it and didn't let me leave. Yeah. So I don't know. Like I had asked for some genetic testing, but it's never been able to happen with like insurance. It's just sort of fallen through the cracks. So I don't really know exactly what type it was.
Did they say anything about what they think may have caused the tumor?
No, they didn't. She said it was a very slow growing tumor. Like she thinks I may have had it for like 9 or 10 years. Like I probably had it through all my pregnancies. Yeah, they don't really know exactly what caused it. If I had to guess, I would say environmental like exposure would be my guess, but I don't know for sure.
How did your diagnosis affect your work and your family life? You mentioned pregnancies, so your mom. How did it affect mom life and work life?
I feel like I was so lucky because I was able to get an appointment for my surgery like within a week. So I didn't have a lot of time to like actually like kind of think about it too much. It kind of happened so quickly. It almost made it a little bit easier. I did take a month off work. I work at a university. We have, really good time off. So it wasn't an issue at all. My children were pretty young, especially my daughter. She was only like probably 2 or 3. So she doesn't really remember it. My son was in elementary school. He remembers it a little bit, but a lot of times he'll be like, I totally forgot you even had cancer. Like I said, I was very fortunate. It was a very short period in my life that I was able to just kind of get it taken care of and then just like move forward.
And that's great. It sounds like, yeah, your turnaround was pretty quick on from diagnosis to getting into treatment. And what did your team suggest for treatment? Was it just the surgery or did you have follow-up treatment after that?
So I was lucky. I only had to have surgery. I had no other treatments after that. My urologist was amazing, like, because she was actually able to keep 2/3 of my kidney because it was such a big tumor. She was like, well, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to try to keep as much of your kidney as possible, but there is a possibility I might have to take the whole thing. So I have 2/3 left, which is amazing. And then after that, I just had to, just follow up every year for 3 years with a CAT scan. And that was it. So I was very lucky.
Very. Wow. I'm glad you didn't have to go through radiation and chemo and all of that can be so hard on your body.
Yeah, exactly.
Who all makes up the treatment team when you're diagnosed with something like kidney cancer or a large tumor?
So in this case, it was just my urologist. That's the only person I met with.
Oh, well, so you don't have to see a nephrologist post-surgery or anything?
No,
Okay, great.
my kidney function was always normal throughout the whole process. I was very lucky. Yeah.
Have they given you information on, like, what to look for in the future for, like, recurrence of the tumor, or is that even a possibility?
Yes. So if I ever have, blood or pain or anything like that, then it's definitely a red flag. I do meet with my urologist every year. We keep our eye on the kidney stone because I still do have that kidney stone that actually, helped me find my tumor. So I meet with her every year and we just kind of like touch base.
That's interesting that they didn't take that out while they were in there.
Yeah, so it's just hanging out in there. Yep.
Did you have to change anything about your diet or keep your hydration or anything to maintain the function of that 2/3 kidney?
No, everything just was normal because I had planned like a trip to Paris, like really close to the surgery. And I was even still able to like go on my trip like within like a month. So I was just so fortunate.
Your treatment time was so short, you probably didn't have a lot of time to like really sit and dwell too much on feelings, but where did you turn for support during this time?
Definitely my friends and family. My mother, like she helped take care of the children while I was in recovery, and my sister and my husband, like Steven, he did an amazing job. He took care of me, which was great. They kind of sent me home a little early from the hospital, and he did a really good job helping me get back to normal. And then I have a really good friend support system.
Let's talk a little bit about recovery. What was the actual surgery like? Were you laparoscopic or did they have to like cut you and like make a big incision? What was that process like and then the recovery?
It was the microscopic, so it was only just like maybe 5 or 6 little incision holes. It was definitely, not fun, painful, but I was lucky. I guess in the past, they used to have to like really make a huge incision. So, that made it a little bit easier for recovery time. I was only in the hospital for about 4 days. And I kind of feel like I wish I could have stayed a little bit longer. I have like an upstairs and a downstairs. It was really hard pain management wise. The biggest hiccup was my bladder kind of like fell asleep. It's one of the slower things to wake up when you're put under, and they took out my catheter too early. And so I almost had an issue with my bladder at that point. But as far as the kidney itself, like all that went well, besides, it being a bit painful.
I imagine walking up and down stairs immediately post-surgery would be really difficult. So I would want to camp out.
Yeah, I definitely stayed downstairs. I actually like slept in like a one of those anti-gravity kind of like outdoor chairs. I kind of got one of those at home.
Okay.
Yeah. Like if you ever have to have surgery like that, I would say like a lazy boy or something where you can like have more support is the way to go. Because laying flat is just not gonna cut it.
How did it feel when you went back and they said, okay, we got it. You're cancer free. There's no more tumor.
It was a relief, definitely. Just so happy. Like I feel weird calling myself a survivor because I feel like mine was just, it's easy as far as cancer treatments go. I was just so fortunate that it all was so streamlined.
It does sound like, in the grand scheme of cancer stories, it's easy, but that was a scary thing to just one day you're fine and the next day they're like, hey, there's a cutie. I can't get over the size of this tumor. That was the size of a cutie on your kidney. That had to be so scary though.
Yeah, it was. My urologist, she showed the tumor to like my husband and
Oh my
sister.
gosh.
Like I think she was just so proud, that she was able to keep my kidney like 2/3 of it. And she should be. She's like a very talented surgeon.
That is amazing. Have you been limited at all since this surgery and since this experience?
No, just like I said, I was just very fortunate.
How did this experience impact your work? You mentioned now that you're studying cancer, a different type of cancer, of course, but did this experience inspire that change?
It didn't. I actually was in the works, of switching positions when I got diagnosed, but I guess I'd never thought too much about how much like viruses can really contribute to causing cancer, which the mucosal HPV, like that gets a lot of attention. We now have the vaccine against that and everything for cervical cancer, but, also just like warts. And so when I was thinking about my tumor, kind of like I said, I kind of almost had a flashback of did I have a kidney infection in college? Did something like that trigger the tumor, or is it environmental exposures? I mean, of course, there's the PFAS, in the water. I definitely think doing cancer research has kind of like triggered like me to think more outside the box for what could have caused my tumor.
What sort of advice do you have for other people who maybe notice there's something's a little off with their bodies?
Definitely talk to your doctor about it. So I remember like the day before I was supposed to go get my ultrasound. Of course, the hospital I was getting it done at, they called and they were telling me how much it was going to cost. And it was a pretty big deal. And I almost did not go because of the money. But thank God I did, because if I didn't, then I would have never found the tumor. So I know sometimes the cost of things could be a deterrent, but I guess if you feel like something's wrong, you probably should go get it checked out.
We see that all the time where people will come to our kidney mobile screenings and they've, I haven't felt quite right in a long time, but I just couldn't afford to go to the doctor.
Yeah,
And that's so scary because then the problem's progressing to
exactly.
a point where now we've got to do something.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you said your children were really little when you were going through this, and maybe don't have a lot of memories. Have you talked to them about your experience since then?
Well, I've talked to my son about it a little bit, but not too much.
What do you want them to know in the future as they're adults and they're taking care of their own health and don't have mom to look after them?
I wanted to make sure that they, let their doctors know that, I have a history of cancer, especially kidney cancer, because, I don't know if it's genetic or not. I wasn't able to get the genetic testing done. And then also to just go to the doctor if you're not feeling yourself or you feel like something's wrong. You don't have to just like suffer or let it go, that sort of thing.
That's another thing we talk about a good bit in some of our kidney mobile screenings is knowing your family history, because a lot of people don't. Their parents maybe experienced something when they were little. They didn't talk about it, so they don't know to look out for it. So I think that's really important.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
If you're able to go to the doctor, if you can afford it, try not to let the cost scare you off, because sometimes it could save your life. If I hadn't got that ultrasound, then because I think the later stages of kidney cancer are harder to deal with. So getting any sort of cancer, the earlier the better for getting it taken care of.
Well, Susan, thank you so much for coming by to share your story with us. If you'd like to learn more about kidney cancer, its risk factors, and its symptoms, visit the National Kidney Foundation's website at kidney.org or the Kidney Cancer Association's website at kidneycancer.org. I'm Sarah Jane Castro, and this is The Journey Continues. Prevention is a key part of our mission at NKFI. That's why at the end of each episode, we offer a health tip.
Here's your prevention tip on high blood pressure. Your blood pressure measures how your blood pushes against your artery walls when your heart is pumping and when it's at rest. Uncontrolled high blood pressure can be dangerous and lead to serious health problems, including heart attack, stroke, and kidney failure. Uncontrolled high blood pressure is one of the leading causes of kidney disease. You can lower your risk of developing kidney disease by eating a balanced diet, getting regular exercise, quitting smoking, and taking any prescribed blood pressure medications as directed. Monitoring your blood pressure and getting your kidneys checked regularly can help you prevent kidney disease from developing.